Good morning. Thank you for coming to the interactive session on inclusive social movements. My name is Herim Yun, and from the Autonomous University of Barcelona, and I will be co-leading the session with Marlies Hesselman from University of Groningen and Sarah Fuller from Macquarie University. I just want to start by mentioning that this session is an initiative that comes from Engagers Working Group 3, on dialogues and co-creation of emancipatory knowledge and practices. So for those of you who are interested in the work, please go have a look at the latest policy brief that was released on new narratives and actors for energy poverty. And we also have a new toolkit that we're working on, which is on the right to energy that will be released during the Engager Energy Rights Forum within 2 weeks. Okay, so this session is aimed to highlight the significance of bottom-up and grassroots initiatives around the energy poverty that has been working directly with the energy vulnerable population. In the past decades, we have seen that the recognition of energy poverty has grown across Europe. And behind these successes, there are numerous projects that was initiated from bottom up that really intended to change our notions about energy poverty to be more people-centered and also to be de-individualized. And some of these great examples have shown how these bottom-up movements could create a space where these vulnerable population could come, share their lived experience, and also be empowered and start to participate in actions that could be translated to bottom-up policies. Therefore, I think it is very important that in the time where we are increasingly talking about inclusive energy transition, that we bring these lessons that are learned from the vulnerable population and working directly with vulnerable population into consideration to the policy formulating arena. So therefore, this session is going to be organized so that we bring the lessons learned from each of the participants. First of all, we have 3 social movements that are invited to give us a talk on their experience in creating an inclusive environment. Therefore, we will hear from each of them. And then we will move on to work in an interactive session where everybody will be divided into groups and we will have a brainstorming session that will take about 30 minutes. And in the remaining 20 minutes of time, we will have a roundup where myself, Sarah and Marlies will each try to address one question and try to summarize what we see from the participatory activities. So before moving on to the presentation, I would like to initiate brainstorming session. You can see on the screen the description of a Menti page. You could enter with the use code that's shown on the screen, 1320868. And you will see a question that we have put for everybody to start brainstorming about the topics that we're going to be dealing with now. And the question is to identify one word that characterizes inclusive energy poverty for you. It is interesting to see a lot of words popping up and being updated at the moment. It's very exciting to see that participatory really has like the main figure. So everybody is thinking that it's the essence of having the inclusive social movement. There are other words like empowerment, engagement, innovative, diversity, outreach, bottom-up, human rights-based approach, being reflexive, open to everybody, listening, not for profit, which is also interesting, especially within European context where the energy is run by big businesses. Be open to all. Right. So I think these are the words that we will be perhaps basing our thoughts on. And let's see if we will have more words in our minds after having the whole participatory sessions finished by the end of the day. So having these first ideas on the topic of inclusive social movements, without further ado, I would like to invite our panelists from the social movements to share their experience of working directly with the vulnerable population. So we have asked previously for them to share their experience on how they successfully created inclusive ambience in their organization, and if they had some kind of struggles, what we could learn from it, and if they were able to influence inclusive energy transformation policies, how that process came about. Okay, so having this in mind, first I would like to invite Dr. Tomislav Tlake from Focus Slovenia.
Okay, thank you. I'll share my screen. I hope you can see it. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting us. I'll be speaking about the experience in Slovenia, more or less, although we were also working a bit on the European level. So I work in a Focus Association for Sustainable Development. It's an independent, non-governmental, non-profit and apolitical association. We work on different topics or areas that include climate change, energy, sustainable mobility, global responsibility and consumption. And we're also dealing a lot with the degrowth concept as well. And related to energy poverty, we've been working on the issue from 2011 on. We started with the Intelligent Energy Euro project Achieve, where we more or less gained a lot of knowledge and experience from other partners and transposed this into activities on our national level in Slovenia. And then we continued with new projects on energy poverty with REACH and another small ones, where more or less we continued with activities on practical and structural level, and also tried to transpose this experience and knowledge into other Balkan countries. So the activities were carrying on and implemented there as well. And currently we are coordinating Horizon 2020 project called Empowerment. The whole title is Empowering Women to Take Action Against Energy Poverty in the Mediterranean. It includes 9 partners from 7 countries. In 6 of these countries, the pilot projects or pilot areas are included, where the practical level implementation will be going on, and all of them are on the Mediterranean coastline. And kind of the main objective of the project is to contribute to energy poverty alleviation and health improvement of people affected by the energy poverty. Here we have especially in mind women, because our experience and a lot of research shows that women are more in danger of energy poverty than men. So within the practical activities, we will include more than 10,000 people affected by energy poverty in Mediterranean. We will also assess the impacts of the practical activities and then provide some kind of policy solutions, policy recommendations for the topics that we'll be working on, mainly for the local and national authorities, but also on the EU level. The structure of the project looks a bit like this. So first steps are mobilizing and capacity building of the key local actors. Then there are practical activities that involve household energy visits, collective assemblies, do-it-yourself workshops and health workshops. And then the analysis and the research based on the practical activities and preparation of the policy recommendations. So going a bit further with the practical activities, I will be more or less speaking about the experience that we have in Slovenia, and that's household visits for energy and water savings. We've started with this activity in 2011. And until now, we've implemented more than 700 visits. Slovenia has only 2 million people, so it's not a big country, and visiting 700 households actually has an impact. And the main goals of these visits are, of course, to reduce energy and water use, to inform the households on the topics, and also kind of to empower them to take actions by themselves as well. To equip households with hints and tips and advices on how to reduce energy and water use, and to provide them with additional support on the issues that are maybe not directly related to energy or water savings, but also some kind of social issues and other. Briefly about steps how to implement the visits. So first we had we needed quite a bit of help with addressing the households, because we're a small NGO organization that doesn't have good access to the households in need. So for that reason, we were cooperating with centers for social work, with Caritas, with Red Cross and other similar organizations that are trusted by these households. The visit itself, it means that the energy advisor came to the household, to the flat or house with the questionnaire written on the paper. Firstly, there were questions related to the household, to the building, so if it's insulated or not. Then they went on to the expenses and bills for electricity, heating and water, measured power of some of the appliances in the household, like TV or computer or similar stuff. So the household could see how much energy and money they spent per year for some of the appliances, which was quite good data for them. They checked the windows if there's a need for draft proofing. They checked the water flow on the taps and the showers. And then they put all the data in the Excel tool, which generated results and provided additional advices for the situation in the household. The results were presented to the household, advice was given, and all of the households also got a package of energy and water saving devices like LED light bulbs, efficient shower heads, draft proofing for windows, aerators for taps. And it showed that in the end, we had actual savings in the household of around 80 euros per year per household. And the whole service and devices were for free for them. So that meant that installing the devices that cost less than 30 euros, we gained almost 80 euros on average of savings. For the household, in the end, it's not a lot of money, but it is kind of a first step towards bigger infrastructural measures that could reduce their energy use as well. And the savings were calculated only based on the devices, not including also all the advices and tips and the energy-related behavior that they should or could or did change. With the results that we had from the households, we had a good data and information to go to the decision makers on the national level and interest them in developing a nationwide program. And we were successful in this. So currently in Slovenia, there's a nationwide program that is run by the National Eco Fund of providing this kind of energy advising in households in energy poverty. It is completely based on our methodology and our way of implementing this energy advising. And we were included in the whole preparation stage of the program, and then also in selecting the devices and everything. And that was the first program that was actually meant for the first program on the national level brought by the decision makers, that it was meant for the energy poor households. And it was a first step towards another one. So currently there are 4 programs, and we've been helping with developing all 4 of them. So helping the ministry responsible for energy and the National Eco Fund to develop these programs. So besides this energy advising in households, currently there's also programs of 100% co-financing of replacement of old stoves and furnaces on wood, of refurbishment of dwellings in multi-apartment buildings, and also for around 500 households, 100% subsidies for bigger infrastructural measures related to energy efficiency, up to 8,000 or 9,000 euros per household. There were 3 questions asked in the beginning. So, has your organization successfully created an inclusive ambience? We needed partners here. So we have tried to accomplish this with cooperation with various sectors, from Centers for Social Work to Caritas and Red Cross. So working with organizations that are trusted by the households in need. And we kind of created this, let's say, trust for this service, because usually in Slovenia, people are reluctant to let people in their home, especially if they don't know the organization. They usually mean it's a company, and the companies sometimes come and say they will give something for free, but in the end you have to pay for it. So we had a bit of difficulties with this. There was a lot of distrust by households and lack of trust when we came for the first visit. But then in the end, when they've seen what we have accomplished, and they will gain actually the devices for free, and they will have savings from it, they were quite happy to be part of it, and also try to spread the word to their colleagues or some other households that they know and could be included in the scheme. We tried on the visits themselves, we tried to work with the households to find solutions together. If we couldn't help them by ourselves, we tried to tell them where they can gain another set of information, so where they can gain help from other organizations, institutions that are specialized for the issues that they're concerned with. And regarding the inclusive energy transition policies, well, we were actually the ones that brought some kind of energy poverty to the policy agenda. So that was going on around 2014. so proposing the implementation of the nationwide program. We've been included in the policy process, development of new legislation and national energy and climate plan, where we were focusing on energy poverty issues and provided some policy solutions for the topic. We've been helping the ministry with setting out the national program. Just 2 weeks ago, we sent a proposition to the government on how to reduce energy poverty in regards to the COVID-19 measures consequences, but we still didn't receive any answer from that. And I would like to end with this, so we have enough time for other participants and for the debate in the end. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tomislav, for your presentation. I think it was very interesting to hear how you started with collaborating with your partners and how the process of gaining trust of households actually went through with mouth of words, and you started having more incorporations of households in your projects. Second, we have Mónica Guiteras from APE, Alliance Against Energy Poverty from Spain, to share her experience.
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you. I'm Mónica from the Alliance Against Energy Poverty, also member of Engineers Without Borders in Catalonia. And thank you so much for inviting us. We will try to give you some ideas of how we did it, to build this inclusive ambience in the energy struggles. So yeah, next slide, please. Okay, I have several slides about the context, because we think the context is key to understand how we build a strong movement, but I will try to pass them a little bit fast. The picture you're seeing now is from the moment in which we passed a law in the parliament, in the Catalan parliament, a law that we built, a law that is a citizens' initiative. We achieved 3 times the signatures that were mandatory, and what you see in the picture is a moment of lots of emotions and the feeling of having normally small victories, but that day it was a big victory. So I think it also helps our movement to be stronger, to be inclusive. When you start having small and then maybe big success, it also helps. So our case, I would say, is a case of some small successes that at some point are beginning to be big successes for everybody, for the affected taking part in this movement. Next slide, please. And yeah, also because the Spanish energy model is so unequal that the situation of many families was really, really precarious. And it's sad, but it has helped us, more people, to come to our assemblies, because they are really in a very bad situation. So people is desperate, and we are offering a place of mutual support. We are offering a place where there's no criminalization, where there's no blaming. So related to the context, which is 5 companies managing the whole market, people is like, I got enough from this. I got enough of being blamed. So let's face the context. Let's face the Spanish energy model is unequal, and let's organize. Let's propose some changes to this. Spanish utility companies are, let's say, one of the most profitable companies compared to other energy companies in Europe. So the feeling of inequality is very strong here in Spain, and people is starting to understand that even if private companies of energy are operating in other countries in Europe, like the inequality of how high their profits are, it's like quite crazy. So yeah, next slide, we can continue. And related to what is going on with directives at EU level, there's also several aspects that are affecting people in their day-by-day lives, which is many of these directives are protecting the people as long as it doesn't affect the market. So it leaves them in a situation of, as I said, lots of precariousness, of precarity. And at Spanish and Catalan level, 5 years ago, when we were born, the laws available to protect people were almost inexistent. No? So it also leaves the people in a situation of need, and this is also why people come to our assemblies. Next slide, please. There's several needs we identified and that helped us send the right messages, I would say. It's important for social movements and NGOs who want to build these social movements or be part of the social movements to understand these different needs or these different groups, because they have there's like ABC situations that are being repeated over and over again. So we need a kind of diagnosis. So there was lots of disconnections, lots of excessive collecting from these utility companies, improper fees, tariffs that weren't those adapted to the energy poor. Also phone harassment, criminalization of affected people, and at the same time, a lack of information that was astonishing. No? Like lack of information about our rights and lack of information about what's the meaning of our bills. And if no one understands anything, not the energy poor, but nobody, like it is really in a code that is prepared for everybody not to understand, at least not to understand it in whole. No, so yeah, this is also part of the context that makes people come to us and be part of this movement. Also, the opacity of this energy system and lots and lots and lots of bureaucracy. Like people by their own, they are unable to do the procedures, not because they don't know how to do them, but because they are impossible many times. No, so yeah, bureaucracy is also a huge part of this precarity that people was experiencing. Next slide, please. And this is the law we implemented, the Citizens Initiative. I won't take much time here, but yeah, there's lots of information about this law in several publications, because I would say it's one of the most advanced law in terms of guaranteeing the right to basic supplies. And it's not at Spanish level, but at national level. And yeah, it has been protecting people from being disconnected since 2015. Next slide. Thank you. And also because at Spanish level, there was a lack of measures. Our movement is based in Catalonia, but in the late, let's say, 8 months or something like this, we are really focusing in spreading what went well in Catalonia to Spain. And it's also helping us to being more inclusive, and to like spreading our words and spreading our methodologies of social movement participation. Next slide, please. So one of the main, I would say, reasons why we are achieving this inclusive ambience and we are growing in participation is this tool that we use called collective assemblies, or let's say it's a collective assessment of the situation of every case. So we gather together twice a month, and now it's a little bit difficult because for COVID measures, we can't be too many people on the room. So we do it partly online and partly in person. But for example, last Wednesday, it was like super successful. We were the maximum we can be at the room, let's say 12 people. And then online we had like 16 people. So yeah, very useful to see that doing these collective assemblies partly online now has allowed us, as I was saying, for people that is not from Barcelona to take part in the assembly, because of course when it's online you can connect from anywhere, no? So it has helped us to be also including new affected people to these sessions. What's the perspective of these collective assemblies, and what is it adding to this social justice and inclusive perspective? Well, we believe the affected people are experts of their own situation. So we are trying to say, stop, like, let's stop the perspective of only experts in the room. No? Everybody has experienced something and has collected their own emotions, their own knowledge from that experience. So let's use that as collective knowledge, because it can be very useful for others. No? Also, we act from a perspective of immediacy. No? We are working for an energy transition that is just, but things are happening right now. So we can't deny to give this accompaniment, to give this dynamization in a very urgent way. No, like people write to us in our Twitter, like, I have been disconnected. So we act as a social movement, like this case won't be addressed the next week, it will be addressed today. No, and all the people taking part in our movement will try to do their best, tweeting on the social networks, mentioning the utility company involved, or the municipality involved. So immediacy is helping us. I don't know if that's the correct word. I think it is. Like, it's happening right now, and we are addressing it right now. So it also helps to invite people. Like, yeah, we are responding. No? We are responding as fast as we can, and we are not an office of management, but from the mutual support, we're doing our best, no, to answer as fast as we can, and not in every case, because some situations can wait a little bit. But when someone is disconnected, we are acting like right now. And we use, and this is a very amazing, like an amazing tool we have used, and we could be using, is Telegram. This is like a messenger app, no, like WhatsApp, and it serves us to organize actions, to organize like actions in person or virtual online actions in the social networks. It helps us to be connected, no? And we have several Telegram groups. One is for everybody, like when they come twice to the assembly, we add them. So not the first day, but if you come 2 days to the assembly, we will add these people to the bigger group of Telegram. But we also have another group of Telegram of, let's say, the 20 people who are more dynamic, no? Who are participating more and who can take roles of dynamization in the assembly. No? So everybody has a role. And I think this is very inclusive because we are so diverse, but we are trying to find what can be everybody's role, no? So that everybody feels, well, I'm useful, no? I'm giving something to the collective perspective because what I do is also important. And we are trying to address this non-expert perspective also from a ecofeminist point of view. Like the spokesperson is not more important than the person who is selling t-shirts, because each part of the process is so important and is key to our success and to our struggles. So we're trying to be very horizontal and give importance to normally less no tasks that no one wants to assume. No, also bringing the food to an action, or things that we normally associate with women tasks. We're trying to give importance to those tasks and to give value to those tasks. And I think that's also very important. And as well, because we are giving this sense of a family, and I understand it's not easy to do that. We didn't achieve that from the beginning, but because time passes by and we are still like from the beginning, maybe there are 8 people that have been there for 5-6 years. No, many people changes, people come and go, people have very complex situations at home, so maybe they will take part for 1 year and they will disappear later on, and it's okay. But there's like a group of people, a group of 7-8 people who have been there from the beginning. So yeah, we have this feeling of being a family, a place where mutual support is always there for you. And understanding that what we do is not only technical, but it's emotional. We're giving emotional support. We are not like, it's not a therapy session, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes people want to talk about their feelings, like not that have been disconnected, but that I am being through a mental illness process, and this doesn't allow me to be thinking, when will I pay my bills? No, and they need to be listened at, even if they are not talking about their energy supply during 3 minutes. No, and we give space to that. So I think this is also very important. And we want to differ from the isolated and assistential counseling that many times has been offered to them. Next slide, please. Okay, so some key aspects also, like we have done trial and error as you asked as many times, completely true. So from the errors, we understood that like the sessions are open, everybody is welcome, but you need to remind that every time. Like only saying that once people doesn't understand, like really, we want you to come again. It's not that it's open, but you are really invited to come again, because we will build something that is stronger. But because if you don't come back again, we won't know how your case went. No? So yeah, open sessions, everybody's welcome, and everybody is invited again to join. Also, that the sessions are bi-weekly in the same place. No, we are not changing the place, we're not changing the dates. People know where we meet, so it helps us to this continuity. No? And also because from one session to the other, maybe one person will come back. So we're talking about a case that was already there the previous week. So people has this feeling of, okay, we are following the cases, no? We are there for the people. And I I think it makes us stronger as well. So we are finding solutions to the cases, but we are doing that together. So people understand that they taking part in the assembly is key to learn together, because together we know more than isolated. And because sometimes it's not that we give collective advice and then we say, okay, bye-bye, but we sometimes decide in very complicated cases that someone from the assembly would accompany this person to the utility company or to the social services or whatever. No? And if we can, the accompaniment wouldn't be from one person, but from a group of 2 or 3 persons. So we go there to the utility, sometimes with the t-shirts, and when they see us, it's like, okay, we're gonna treat them right because they are organized. It's very sad, but it is what's going on. This is what is going on when people go isolated. Like, they don't achieve changing company, they don't achieve not changing the conditions of the contract. But when we go together and we ask twice, 3 times if it's needed, and we ask for that, like the 3 people who are there are asking for the same thing, we are not living unless you do these changes for us. Thank you so much. And finally, they are doing it. So I think it also gives us very, like, many strengths. And next slide, please. I think maybe I'm taking too long. Okay. So of course we don't do everything right. We have many mistakes, many errors. So we need to find ways of better addressing not affected people. Like, people need to understand at this very moment, like post-COVID crisis, like what the Alliance is doing, what we are doing from Engineers Without Borders is important to everybody, not only to affected people, because you can be affected tomorrow. So I think a good way to being inclusive is not only to address the energy poor, but addressing everybody, because we all deserve to pay for a just price. We all deserve an energy model that is democratic, etc., etc., etc. No? And also, I think we need to find ways to look for the people. Where is the people that are currently affected? They are in the health centers, they are in the senior centers, in the social services offices, in the employment offices, in all these places. And sometimes what we have done is we have some leaflets and we go to these places and we inform people, no? And we have to say, like, it is for free. We're not charging for this, because some people think you're trying to fool them. But yeah, normally they are very pleased that you give them this piece of information. Like, you can come to us if you are disconnected, or you can come to us if you're paying too much for your bills, no? Because, as I said, not only to the energy poor, but to everybody who potentially is affected by this unequal energy model. Next slide, please. Okay, so also the communication work we do is very important, and I think we are being very inclusive there. Like, every time a means of communication, not TV or a radio, wants us to talk, normally they want unaffected people to talk, and we say, that's okay, but we are also offering you that our spokesperson talks in the program, because we don't want to be framed as, no, the poor, the affected, those who don't have the tools to improve their situation. So we give them both discourses, no? Like, okay, we have this affected family that is willing to speak in your program, but we will also then have our spokesperson explaining the context, explaining how the energy model is violating human rights. And sometimes it would be the affected people doing that more political discourse, no? And not only, I can't pay my bills, oh, poor me. No, we want to change these assistentialist, blaming, victimization messages. Next slide, please. And we are doing that also from the Empowerment Project that Tommy very kindly explained in a very detailed way. I think, yeah, I'm wrapping up last minute. From the Empowerment Project, we are achieving to address also the gender perspective, no? And trying to see like a very wide gender perspective means not only addressing women, but addressing like gender inequality. That means also children perspective and all those forgotten, no? Migrated women, old women, and several affected people that has different inequality access in their lives, and also from the health perspective that we are addressing, as I said, also in the collective assemblies. And next slide, please. So yeah, I think we are. I think I will leave it here. There are many many slides, but just to finish my presentation, I think for us, like it's very important this participation, no, from a rights perspective, as it was said in our Menti poster, and also like to understand how the different groups and collectives, like no single parent families, migrants, people with disabilities, like how can we address them, how can we understand who are we talking to, and build messages that are inclusive and they feel okay, I am part of this group of people they are addressing, no, they are not forgetting about me. So yeah, this way I think we can build a more inclusive and participatory social movements. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica. It was a really interesting talk. I think one of the key messages I am taking from your talk is your experience of working really close to the lived experience. Especially interesting to hear about decriminalization and how you're working with urgency in order to address all these issues that energy poverty household is going through. And great to know about detailed logistical organization as well, how you're giving roles and using telegrams in the period of COVID, you know, in order to expand, you know, that limit that we have geographically when we're working face to face. Lastly, from the social movement participants, I would like to invite Chloe or Linden from Citymind org to share her work.
Thank you very much. Yes, and thank you for the other presentations. I think they were super interesting, and we also have some arguments in common, I think. So I will come back to some of the elements already mentioned. So I am working for an initiative which is called La Pile, and I'm here together with one of my colleagues, Raisa, who is in Brazil now, by the way. So it's also really, really early for her this morning. So thank you to be here. And La Pile is part of an organization, a non-profit organization called Citymind, which has a long history of working in urban deprived areas around Europe. And we are working now currently both in Brussels and London. And in Brussels, we are actually a very small team. We are only 4 people. You can go to the next slide, maybe. So what does Citymind? We usually choose a shared issue in the city where we can organize people around, where we can that we can tackle to involve citizens in urban developments, because we really think that urban development should be everyone's business. And so since a few years, since 2018, actually, we've been working on this topic of electricity. It was completely new for us. Before that, we had been working on water and on economy, for instance. And so we started a series of initiatives on electricity in a neighborhood in Brussels, which is very dense, very diverse. And basically, so what we do is we try to gather people around this issue of electricity and look at what is possible for citizens to engage with this topic to create really positive and constructive benefits for the neighborhood. And so currently we also work on a network of renewable energy communities, which I will explain later on. So first, a little bit about our trajectory in the next slides. So we started in 2018 with a bit of, because we didn't know anything about the energy sector, and we started scanning the energy landscape. Usually in our approach with Citymind, we just start with interviews, gathering experts, local and regional, and citizens as well, around one central question, which was which is the room for maneuver for citizens here in the neighborhoods in this urban energy transition. And so with all this knowledge that we gathered, we did an exhibition which kind of shows how the current energy landscape is working, what is missing, what is not working, and also some inspiring projects which already exist, which involve citizen collaboration, and from which we can learn. So this was a really, really exciting project. The exhibition then went to several places around Brussels and even to other countries. And so thanks to this acquired knowledge, we also started building things concretely in the neighborhoods with local people, just by organizing workshops and discussion sessions, or just talking with people informally. We started thinking about what we could really do for the neighborhood to work on this energy transition issue. And so today we have two emerging renewable energy community projects in the neighborhood. We can go to the next slides. So as you may know, there is a new regulatory framework in Europe which has to be transposed by the member states around this year. So the Clean Energy Package and the Renewable Energy Directive. And they would permit citizens to take on a more prominent role in the energy sector. So this legislation hasn't been transposed yet in Brussels, but with Lapille, we are benefiting from exceptional measures. So a regulatory sandbox granted by Brussels region to test these future regulations on energy communities, which can potentially allow us to influence the future regulatory framework. And so we have been setting up together with neighbors from a social housing block right beside our offices, a pilot project which will be an energy sharing project, which is not possible for the moment in Brussels. And so it's, in technical terms, it's a collective self-consumption project. and we received, so it's the owner of the building who decided to install solar panels, and then we received some funding from the Brussels region to work with the neighbors and to um, make it really an energy community project. So I think we are also working on another energy community project on the level of the district, really, so much bigger. But I think this specific project is already very interesting and very indicative of many challenges we face in many places in urban environments. So it's a low income population. There are the people are not homeowners. It was a quite aging building stock already, and the households are also very diverse, also very culturally diverse, and um, uh, quite fragmented in the sense that the social cohesion was a bit missing in that area. Which makes it more challenging if you want to start a project there. And so maybe we can go to the next slide. So as you might have understood, it's quite challenging to work on this kind of project in COVID times, and also in a context where the regulation is not yet defined, and in a sector which is changing a lot. Also, when we talk with people, they might be a bit intimidated when we talk about issues like local energy transition, or when we talk about climate-related challenges. So we really tried not to use this quite intimidating and sometimes paralyzing vocabulary and discussions, but we really try to go beyond this abstractness of energy related projects, and translate challenges into very small scale informal moments of interactions, where we mostly speak about first the issues that people are facing on a very everyday basis and in their neighborhood. So in that way, I can completely relate to what has been said before about the importance of trust. And I would add here that proximity is also very, very important. We have our office right around the corner, and we can always pass by, just have a coffee with some people. I think that's very, very important. Um, and then I can also really relate to what has been said about creating a story, and finding the right intermediary objects to allow a better comprehension and a better interaction. I think that's really important. And so what has also really helped us here is to create this kind of success story. So the people who are living in the social housing block, who are involved in the pilot project, they know that this has never been done, and that they are kind of pioneers. And this is really motivating for them to participate. to keep coming to the meetings and everything. So yes, that's it. And then in the final slides, I just want to share with you one other project we are working on currently. Because we know that this topic of energy communities is very new for many people, and that we are very few working in urban areas, also working with bottom-up projects and with a very strong social inclusion aspects. We are working on a network which would connect all these similar practices. So we are just starting now with the project, but we would really like to invite you, if you know some interesting projects which have similar approaches, to connect with us, and so that we can build a stronger movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chloe, for your presentation. I think it was very interesting aspect because you guys are the urban energy transition projects, and I think there are some issues that were addressed by the presenters before. You reiterated the importance of building trust by having your organizations in proximity, and also the difficulties of dealing with people that have multicultural backgrounds and so on. So I think we have seen very interesting perspective of 3 different social organizations that has been working with vulnerable population, a little bit of their trial and error and what they have been able to achieve. I hope you had good 15 minutes of brainstorming on the topics. Now what we're gonna try to do is to have a quick summary of what came out, starting from question number 1, myself. So the first question was on what are the challenges and opportunities in creating diverse and inclusive social movements. And I have to say that the first observation was that we had a lot of stickies on the challenges, but less in the opportunities. But with time, we started adding more. But going over the points on challenges that we've realized that geographically, no, perhaps we're looking at urban issues, but there are more specific topics that should be addressed, such as energy poverty in rural areas and also in densely populated urban areas that are like favelas in Brazil that has different, characteristics due to how they are organized. And also, there are some challenges in making energy poverty a cross-partisan priority, saying that it doesn't really only pertain to one political idea or one party, but it should be recognized as a global topic. And also, there are other challenges that are directly related to who are these vulnerable people that we have to be approaching in order to have inclusive social movements. Who are the right people? Do we need to have a holistic approach in order to engage certain vulnerable population, and going beyond having an approach for the non-affected population as well? But how are we going to do it? What is the right range, and how are we going to gain their trust in order to make this possible? There are some interesting points that was addressed that is related to the current COVID crisis. Obviously, it is a big challenge that we have faced, but also with the help of social media, it could be an opportunity in order to break that geographical barrier and create a more inclusive environment where we do not depend only on face-to-face big group assemblies, but we are fomenting this way of participating through a virtual way. There are many other things that are here, but I think I will leave my part here so that other groups could have reflection on their questions as well. So question 2 will be Marlies.
Yes, thanks. I think we had a similar challenge than you, that we sort of started with the challenges and then we also moved to the opportunities, but we did manage to discuss both. And for me, it was actually quite interesting to see that I think some of these things that we were discussing in our group were also discussed in that policy brief of Working Group 3 that you mentioned at the beginning. So where we had sort of identified challenges on empowering solutions or empowering movements, co-creating that for energy poor people. There were a number of items put on the board about where to start, how to start, how can you build the trust needed to get a movement going. Maybe there's a need for certain movement leaders to take charge and to stand up. But then once you want to build this movement, what are the barriers for bringing people in? And then there's a number of barriers that appeared on the board: language, time, cost. Somebody said people may be too absorbed in their daily lives to actually want to participate in this movement or want to engage. So how do you bring them in? Same counts for people in social isolation. How do you bring people on board that are maybe quite socially isolated, also in neighborhoods where there is a limited social cohesion? And we also need to acknowledge, like Monica said, intersectional barriers. So women from a migrant background may be more difficult to engage, for example. So these were some of the things that were mentioned, including also this digital gap and question of access to information, lack of know-how. So these would be challenges to overcome in order to get these movements started. And then what would be the opportunities if it does work? Building communities and maybe starting small there was mentioned. So starting with sustainable small campaigns or projects in your neighborhoods, and then the ideas can grow from there, from the bottom up. And then also some notes on the board about that the opportunity of these movements could be that it's really about creating more systemic change and bigger picture, wider context issues, which I think was also very clearly stressed by the presentation by Monica. So I think we'll leave it at that for our summary.
Okay, and in relation to question 3 then, so question 3 was really around the challenges and opportunities for developing more inclusive energy transition policies. And very similar to the first 2 groups, we found that it's very easy to latch onto the challenges and perhaps a bit more challenging to think about the opportunities. But really, to summarize our discussion, we talked about the language of policy potentially not being very accessible to people, perhaps not really capturing everyday lived experiences, and perhaps the focus on statistical measures actually excludes a lot of the experiences that people are having, or the kind of everyday circumstances that people are living in. And questions around the lack of transparency in policy making, and questions around really how consultation actually works and the capacity of consultation to really engage with the views of stakeholders. The time it takes to develop policy, the number of resources, and the kind of tendency to push for change, which may actually not be very inclusive. Also challenges of complying with EU law as part of the wider regulatory environments. In terms of opportunities, then we kind of tried to connect up some of our challenges with opportunities, really recognizing that there are ways of including stakeholders in kind of statistical or numerical measurements. Perhaps a focus on rights very explicitly within policy is one way of addressing some of these challenges. Talking about this idea of perhaps regulatory sandboxes as kind of experimenting or pilot projects, perhaps having leverage in terms of them being able to develop wider policies. We talked about perhaps COVID as being some kind of moment for action, or some kind of opportunity for action, perhaps in a way of perhaps changing behavior, particularly around disconnections, but also other forms of energy policy as well. So I will leave it there just in the interest of time. But yeah, it was a really, really fruitful discussion. So thank you to everybody.
Well, thank you everybody for participating. I think we had a really interesting session so far. We will leave the mirror whiteboard so that everybody can have a look at the questions that was worked by other groups so that you could, use your time to look, because there are very much interesting details there. And I would like to thank everybody who came to the session, because in a participatory methods, each participant really matters in bringing in valuable inputs. I wish you all have a great day, and thank you for coming to sessions. Bye-bye.
Thank you.